Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, FF family. Today is November 25th. This is episode 34 of the Freedom Finances podcast. Today we're talking about the 50-year mortgage. That's a hot button topic right now. Is it something that's new and improved and something's going to revolutionize the housing market? I know I've talked about it multiple times that I would love to own a house at one point in my life. Or is it a scam? We're going to talk about that today. To start us off with, though, as always, my name is Dylan. I'm your host today. I'm with Bradley and Nick. These two lovable people, I'll say, are right here along with us. They're going to help us guide through this conversation today. Yeah, that's valid. It's valid. I always like to get these started off with a little icebreaker. I'm going to get us going. FF Media. So we are also multi-brand at this point kind of channel where we also go into movies and video games. We're doing other podcasts while still managing Freedom Finances. So I wanted to kind of go over there. So what's something great that you all have going on with that other channel? Things that would be helpful that you learned that you bring to this channel. I'll start us off with, so I've been really diving into editing a lot. I've been helping with our shorts, any things that I initially had Bradley do. And he was like, look, it's going to be just quicker and more in line with what you want if you try to your own way into this. So I started editing it and he is correct. I know, first time for everything. And so we were really, I like it. It helps me get better at what I can help manage the channel. He also has a live, so it helps him out too, I'm sure. But he still helps, of course. There are certain things that I can't do that he does help with, but it's a lot quicker. So helping that, I love to, go over into Freedom Finances as well to, if we ever need some editing help. That's been fun. And, I also have our most viewed long form video so far. More to come. Over 150 as of today when I saw it last. That's pretty crazy. I'm enjoying that.
Nice.
And thank you. And Bradley still holds the short record. Almost 2,000 views on one of ours. So that's I'm going for that title next. So we'll see. Yeah. All right, Nick, what's going on with you with FF Media? What are you feeling on it?
Yeah, I'm liking it. It's gotten me, I think as an adult, you don't always have time for like video games and stuff like that, which is, I love video games. I always have. And I find that taking a back burner. And I think with the new jaunt, I prioritize a little bit more and I'm trying to like get back into it and it's fun. But I'm also realizing that I'm like a snob when it comes to video games, man. Like it takes a lot to like get me into a video game and really love it. And I'm realizing that I'm just overly critical. And if I can't get into a game within the first like hour or two, I'm like, ditch it. I'm done. I'm not into it at all. So like, you got to grab me like right out the gate. And I guess I didn't realize that about myself. So I'm finding out new things about my gaming personality.
Yeah. What was the new release that you did? You did a review on, what was that over?
Borderlands 4.
Borderlands 4. I kept wanting to say Battlefield because I'm doing the Platinum review on Battlefield right now, and it was just not getting there for me. So Borderlands 4, that I remember that was the first thing you said was, I am not enjoying this. I'm like 2 hours in, I'm hating my life.
Yeah, it's just not fun to me. I don't know, man. Maybe there's something wrong with me, but
or you have taste.
Well,
there we go. That's what I like to tell people.
I like that you're like, this is, you said it wasn't a priority. You're making it more of a priority. Are you ever like playing video games and the wife is like, come on, let's go. You're like, I have to do this for work. I'm sorry. Like,
yeah, like, babe, I'm not just playing games here. I'm making,
this is business. Okay.
Yeah.
Business.
I'm in a business meeting right now.
What is it, a 1090 you have to file for like YouTube if you make profit for it or whatever? Like,
oh yeah,
I'm doing my 1090. Okay, you're stuck in your W2. All right, I'm a business owner, bro.
Yeah, you wouldn't understand.
Yeah, go back to your 9 to 5, loser. Bradley, what are you learning? What's you got going on?
I had an idea. Tell me what you guys think. So we have our movies and video game collections. Well, at least Dylan and I do. Nick, you are. Throw your stuff away to GameStop. Anyways, I have all my movies. I was like, what if I had this idea. What if I like grabbed every single Blu-ray and said, I'm going to rate every single Blu-ray like on video one way or another. So I had an idea at first. I was like, what if it was like like a 20-hour stream or something, you know, like where only like 10 people watch. And then I'm like, well, what if I did like one short a day or something like that? I don't know. What do you guys think?
I like that. You gave your finance tips a day.
Yeah.
I think this would be cool to like go into that for that channel.
Yeah.
And you might be like me where I have like a 4K or a Blu-ray that's still sealed and I'm meaning to watch that movie at some point in time.
Sure.
It'd be a good excuse to get through that finally.
Yeah.
So I like it.
All right. That's what
I also have movies, just so you know.
Oh, okay.
I have
You wouldn't
every Harry
know.
Potter movie. I have all of Adam Sandler's movies. So I have a bunch of DVDs and
All right. Fair
Jet
enough.
Li movies.
Fair enough. I'll allow it.
I'm cool. I like movies.
Yeah, I have CDs still.
See, the trick is, Nick, we have you host because you have to ask questions the whole time because you haven't watched.
Yeah, because I just don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Well, with that being said, I appreciate everybody being on top of it today and what we're going to go over. So we're going to dive right in. I appreciate you all for what you're contributing to the other channel and this one. But let's get back to some finances. Let's see what's going on in the world. I want to start this off with Nick with the 50-year mortgage because it was kind of presented to you for this idea in general. So I would love to hear this debate of the century on the the 50-year mortgage. So these two battle the minds here. They're going to go at it. I'm going to make sure to ref these two in. They were fighting all day about this. I was like, guys, chill. Save it for the podcast, please. So we're going to get right in here. So
Dylan, your sarcasm doesn't play if we're the only people who know that you're being sarcastic about it.
Who's sarcastic? Nick, with the 50-year mortgage, if this becomes a real thing, do you see a world where you're going to do this? Because my cards are on the table. I think this is a silly idea. I think 50 years is way too long between you, like, I mean, if selling a house, maybe, like, if you go in between, it's like whatever. But for me, I want to find my forever home between my first to third house if I ever have the opportunity to. I think this is a scam. That's my choice. But maybe you two can convince me otherwise. So Nick, start us off. This is reality. What would you do?
All right. Well, in this debate, first of all, my opponent doesn't know what he's talking about. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think it's interesting. A lot of people probably 30 years ago would have told you a 30-year mortgage was insane. You know what I mean? And even think about like car loans. What's your average car loan now? And what was it 20, 30 years ago? Like they've increased by probably 20 to 40% in length, right? I think you can get a car loan now for like 8 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And so I think we continue to stretch it out, which I think there's a whole argument against that in the first place. But I don't think it's that like unheard of to have a longer period of time as housing prices continue to go up. I think where you start to get a little bit like iffy is so interest rates generally go up as you have a longer period, right? So your 15-year mortgages are going to have your lowest interest rate. 50 would have higher than a 30, most likely. By how much? I don't know. And that does, when you increase it and you have a much longer period of time, you can make the argument that your payments are only like marginally lower than a 30-year. And so I do have some concerns there. But I think as far as, I was talking with Bradley about this, there's interest-only loans that you can get for people like that flip houses and stuff and will plan on refinancing. But those can be set up for like 5 to 10 years of interest-only payments. And then the payments go up after that if you don't refinance. I could see this being maybe an alternative to somebody who maybe does want to get into a house and wants to fix it up, maybe live in it for a couple of years, fix it up, pay a lower mortgage while still getting the appreciation over the years of just like houses going up in value, paying a little bit towards the principal, better than renting and like flipping it in a couple of years or even refinancing or something like that. I could see some situations where, a 50-year mortgage might make sense because I only care about the monthly. I'm getting a little bit of principal versus just renting. And I don't have to worry about a balloon payment if I do change my mind, like an interest-only loan, and have this giant principal payment that I have to do 10 years later where I'm probably paying about the same anyways. So I think there's some validity to it. I don't think it'll catch on super quick, but I think if I'm, 18 to 25 years old and I'm renting, and I can get a 50-year mortgage for the same or lower price that I'm paying in rent, Well, I think 9 times out of 10, that's going to be a better option than continuing to rent. And if I can't afford a 30-year mortgage, that's a good kind of segue into home ownership where maybe other people wouldn't have been able to. So yeah, I think there's going to be people that are able to leverage that. And realistically, I think it's going to allow people to buy more house than they can actually afford and be able to justify the monthly payments, just like we do with cars.
So,
sorry, go ahead, Dylan.
well, yeah, let me, because Brad, I want to bring this to you anyway. So you mentioned that they've gone up over time. So was there, I believe there was like 15-year mortgages before. Is that correct?
Yeah. And
well, there's still now, but that was the standard.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that was the standard back in the day. And now it's gotten to 30s more the standard.
Gotcha. And so with that, so Brad, this brings me to my question for you, which is, would you, if you had the opportunity to, my assumption would be you want to do a shorter mortgage all the time because of interest rate.
Right.
So you'd pay less, right? Is that correct?
Yes. So I mean, that's the big thing is like, if you have a 15-year mortgage versus a 30-year mortgage, your monthly payments are higher, but less of it is interest. So over 30 years, you accumulate a lot of interest payments, and the interest rates are higher on a 30-year, just like Nick was saying. So probably on a 50-year mortgage, interest rates will be, I don't know, let's say they're 5.75 for a 15-year, let's say 6 for a 30-year, and let's say 6.25 for a 50-year. That's something like that. It's probably more. I think what we could be looking at is like kind of like I'm trying to think of this. My thought is, if I'm trying to find a scenario in which it's a good idea. And Nick, I like what you said. If you're a flipper and you're using interest only payments, and I never thought about that. Like every once in a while I go down a YouTube hole and I watch these like get rich people and they're like, I bought this house, I paid this much interest, blah, 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 fixed it up, spent 20 grand fixing it up, flipped it, minus my interest payments, blah, 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 I made this much money. Could it be even better with a 50-year mortgage? If that's the case, it's not for you and me, you know, it's for a certain group of people. Or maybe it is for the 18-year-old who wants to move out of his parents' house, and has a job, right? And not just like a really crappy job, but like is actually trying to make some money and just get started right away. So like, I'm like you guys, I'm not sold on it, but I don't know. I think there could be a possibility. Personally, it does seem seem like a scam. But to go back to your thought, Nick, like when I looked it up, I was like, when did the 15-year mortgage change to the 30-year mortgage? And you're right, like I think the 1930s is when the 15-year mortgage was officially introduced. And quickly after, they started introducing a 30-year mortgage, but it wasn't standardized for another 15 or 20 years. So is it that crazy that, is it crazy that it took us that long to get a 50-year mortgage? I don't know. That's where my thought was when I was looking at the times.
And kind of to go into that too, is there a different interest rate if you do 15 to 30, or is it just you pay the longer you're paying, it could be the same?
No, it's definitely lower. So I think it's about 50 basis points lower. So if rates are 6% on a 30-year, you can generally get around a 5.5% on a 15-year. And so same methodology, you're probably looking at like a 6.5 on a 50-year, right. But it's still hypothetical because they don't actually exist yet.
And what are current average?
I think they do. They're just very rare.
And what's the current average housing interest rate right now?
Isn't it around 6%?
Yeah, I'll pull it up right now. I keep that on my bookmarks. It's 6.2% or 6.26 for a 30-year, 5.54 for a 15-year. That's as of the 20th. So as of 5 days.
What is that, about 70 basis points lower for the...
Yeah. So
is that good right now? Because I know everyone talks about the doom and gloom of trying to get a house right now. Is that good, bad for the average American? Like, what are we feeling?
If you look historically, rates have only been below 5% over the last, 5 years. I think before that, rates like in the double digits weren't unheard of. So depends on what time frame you're really looking at. Is it good? No, I mean, I refinanced at the beginning of COVID, and I got like a under 3% rate. So compared to that, no, it's not that good. But I mean, in the
Well,
grand scheme of things, it's pretty decent.
so here's the history of rates. Essentially, before the mortgage crisis in 2008, the rates that we have right now are about on standard, right? Like in the sixes and fives. That's where everyone always had their mortgage, somewhere between probably high fours and mid sixes. There were other crises like the stagflation crises of the 1970s where mortgage rates were in like 15-20%. That was extreme and that was bad. But they slowly went down. Now, after the mortgage crisis, rates at 5-6% were considered high. So it's really like you're saying, Nick, it really depends on what your perspective is. Is our post mortgage crisis rates, is that what we should be expecting as standard, or after 15 years has the mortgage rate market corrected itself? I don't know. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. I think it really has to do with, where inflation is going and what we got to do with the interest rate cuts and stuff like that. I think that the higher housing costs get, the more it's going to be unrealistic to not have just like a stupid high monthly payment just because of compounding interest and stuff like that. So I don't know that you could make interest rates much higher and still be able to afford a house right now. I would like to think we'll get into the fours again, but it seems unlikely with how slowly we're cutting rates right now.
Right.
But maybe like getting into, the mid fives on a 30-year might not be unrealistic, but I just don't see it going much lower than that.
Real quick, you guys want to hear something that really made me angry? So
Again, yes.
So we tried to get our like pre-approval since we're moving, and obviously like you, Nick, like my mortgage rate is like low threes right now, so the cost of my house has to be significantly lower than the current costs, or than the current cost of my new house has to be lower than the current cost of this house because of interest rates. So we did like a random pre-approval with Chase because when we got our mortgage, it was through Guaranteed Rate, which got sold to one place, which got sold to another, which got sold to Chase. So we just did it through Chase, and it was 5.99, which is lower than the 30-year average. And the Chase guy, the banker guy, was like, "You guys have amazing credit. It's like low 800s, right? Like official credit checks. That's our credit." And so we're like, well, let's go with the guy who got us our current mortgage in Colorado and see what he can do from Guaranteed Rate. He comes back, and I know he didn't do it, but he comes back with a 6.3 something mortgage rate, and I was so mad. I'm like, you're telling me I have like a 815 credit score, and you're giving me a mortgage rate that's above the national average? I was so mad. Anyways, that's pre-approval. It's not our real mortgage rate. I just thought I'd share that fun story with you.
I will tell you, not to like endorse them or anything, but when I was shopping rates, the two places that I got the best rates were what was it, Western Union,
Okay,
and Bank of America. Those two always consistently had the best rates. Now, granted, this was in 21, I think.
yeah.
But those are, after shopping around everywhere, like they always beat out anybody else's rates.
Yeah, that's good to know, but it was frustrating. But to go back to your question, Dylan, of like interest rates, I just don't like, if I had a 5.5% interest rate versus a 6.26, like on a 30-year, that would save me probably 200 grand, maybe more. I don't know, depending on the price of your house. So that's where it's like, if you get a 50-year mortgage, here's what I don't think, and tell me where I'm wrong, Nick. Okay, if you get a 50-year mortgage, you're probably going to have slightly lower payments, maybe, I don't know, $200, depending, like, I don't know.
Sure.
But you're going to have higher interest rates, and you're going to be paying for 20 years instead of 30, 20 extra years. which means you're probably going to spend an extra $300,000-$400,000. We know that already. That's kind of like, I'm willing to take that risk to have a lower payment. My thought is, if let's say I'm someone who I don't know if I'm going to live somewhere for a while, I'm not flipping though. Like I'm going to live there for 5 years, but I don't have a long-term plan. I was thinking about that. I'm like, maybe a 50-year mortgage rate is good. But then I thought, you would build no equity if your interest payments are amortized over 50 years. You're probably paying all interest for the first 5 years, especially in a 50-year mortgage. And I'm like, you wouldn't even get equity. Is that even a good idea? Like, I don't know. That's where I was thinking. I don't know. What do you think, Nick?
Here's where I think you have to think about it a little bit differently. So yeah, like what, 90 to 95% of your monthly payments are going to be going towards interest and, escrow, whatever. So 5 to 10% maybe is going towards principal, and maybe that's being generous.
Right.
But think about from an investment standpoint, right? And so you're talking about 5 years. Well, if I rent for 5 years, I get nothing. If I buy something 5 years later, it's going to go up in value. So even if I put nothing towards the principal, just the increase in the value of my property is going to give me something for the same amount potentially that I would have paid in rent. So regardless of the like, hey, I'm paying down the principal, like you have something to show for it. Is it the best? No,
Right.
Like the best would be getting a 15-year pay, but like some people just can't afford that, or some people want the flexibility and freedom to have a lower payment. Because I will tell you, when I refinance, I looked at the math between a 15 and a 30 with the different interest rates and the amortization, and it was actually a better deal. I went with a 30-year instead of the 15, and I make extra payments because the difference would have been like 10 months paying it off early if I went with the 15-year, if I was making those same extra payments, but I had the flexibility to go back down if I needed to, and so like, yeah, ideally, it's going to be the best. You're going to get more principal on a 15, but you at least get something on a 50. And I'm comparing to renting. And I think that's really where it's like, if I can't afford a house, then yeah, 50 years better than renting, I would say.
So in general, would you always recommend people rent before their house, or like first time instead of renting? I don't want to like throw my money away and I want to go into a house.
I think there's situations where maybe renting makes sense, especially if you're like a short-term assignment in a location, or you're not sure you want to be in this place long-term. Because when you buy a house, you do, you typically have closing costs and things like that, where you've got to be in it for probably 12 months before you can kind of break even on some of those things. Right. So I do think there are some situations where renting makes more sense. But I think for most people who plan on like, hey, I'm going to go and live here for a few years, I'd say 9 times out of 10, it's better to own than it is to rent, just because you're going to get more out of it. Obviously, like if the market crashes or something happens, there's a chance that you don't end up with something. But like even in those situations, I still feel like you're going to have some principal where you wouldn't have with the renting.
I would say 3 years is probably the sweet spot. Like if you're like, I'm going to be here for at least 3 years, then you should probably buy the house, because at the 3-year point, you at least have built a little bit of equity, maybe not a lot, but a little bit. If you're putting extra money payments down, then you're building more equity. But you at the very least you're getting something out of it versus, like you said, nothing. Now, but that 3 years kind of comes from two numbers, like 2 years. If it's 12 to 2 years, 12 months to 2 years, you might get killed in taxes, especially if prices go up really quickly. You could really get hurt in taxes on like just like selling it and making a profit, and you haven't really done anything with it. 5 years is like a pretty good spot where it's like, well, I can really benefit off of this. So I think 3 years is a good number. Now my thought is like, what would that number be for a 50-year mortgage? Like, you have to stay there for at least 6 years, I don't know.
Well, why is the number any different, though? Wouldn't it be the same number, whether it's a 50 or a 30 year? Just that you get less benefit, but
Right.
It still financially makes sense, I think, regardless of the term of the loan.
I guess my thought is like, I don't know. Like the only equity you're making on a 50-year mortgage, let's say you're paying minimum payments, right? The only
Sure.
equity you're making probably is just the value of the house going up because of the state of the market, if it's going up at that point. That's
Yeah, but even think about that, man. Like, what's the average increase in housing prices? Between like 2 to 6% per year?
something like that, yeah.
And you think about your average person, it's lower income, probably younger crowd that would be designed for. You think 18 to 25 years old, and I'm making, let's just call it 5% on a $300,000 house for 3 years. Like, even just that, like, I probably don't have the capital to have that sort of return on investment.
Sure.
So even just for just that part of it alone could be worth it, even if you have nothing towards principal. And that's where I think it offers a unique opportunity to people who couldn't do that type of investment or ownership and things like that, and they can capitalize on some of that. So I mean, I think would people like us do it? Like, no, because we have the ability to do a 30 or 15, but somebody who is locked out of home ownership because of that, like, cost to entry, I think this allows them to kind of get in on that and
Yeah.
benefit from it.
What about this, Nick? You said, and your math makes a lot of sense. Like, you were picking between a 15-year and a 30-year mortgage, and your goal was always to have it paid off early. Does that math still add up between let's say a 15 and a 50, or a 30 and a 50? Like, would you still pick that if you're like, I still want to pay it off within 14 or 10 years?
I think between the 15 and the 30, the math was so close when you factor in like making extra payments on a
Right.
30 versus the two. I think with the amount that the interest rate increases to a 50 and an extra 20 years versus I think the math changes on that one. And I don't think it's hey, let me do this so that I can, like,
Right.
I think that math probably doesn't work. I haven't done an amortization schedule for a 50 year, but I don't think that one is designed for somebody who's trying to be a savvy investor or something like that. I think that is mainly for, hey, I can't afford a 30-year loan. I can't get approved for it or whatever. My, income to, debt ratio is not at an approvable level,
Right.
but maybe it is on a 50-year. I think that's who that's designed for. Or again, maybe a house flipper or something like that. But I don't think it's your traditional house flipper. I think it's somebody who is going to live in the house and flip it. Is somebody who might benefit from that versus like an interest only loan.
Have you ever seen the pictures of Dave Ramsey hearing about the 50-year mortgage, and he's like, I don't, like, dying or
Yes.
something? Like,
I can only imagine.
his thought is like, the only debt you should ever have, and I'm making fun of him, but he's like kind of right, but the only debt you should ever have is a 15-year mortgage where you've put at least 20% down. And it's like, okay, like, I get it, and he is like, mathematically he's right? That's the best one to have, a 15-year mortgage where you put 20% down. But I mean, who actually does that, like, I would want to know that statistics.
Can do that in like how you graduate from high school, maybe you go to college, like a studio apartment, even in Missouri where it's like super cheap cost of living is like $800 to $1,200 a month. Like, how, like, I don't know. I just think some people can't save up to be able to get 20% down and stuff like
Right.
that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm still caught up on Bradley's credit not lowering the amount he owed. That's what I'm still caught up. Did he come back? Did you counter offer him at all?
No, well, no. I mean, it's not really like a counter offer type of deal. It's just like a
That's what the rates
pre-approval
are.
is like a 90-day period where some realtors will be like, "Are you pre-approved to buy a house?" And we'll say yes for this amount, and they'll be like, "Okay, because we're not doing business with you." So it's not a guarantee, but I would not accept that. And like when Carrie told me, I'm like, what? Like, I'm about to call this guy and freak out on him, Like, it.
So here's a question for you. Would you buy points?
What does that mean?
So
gonna ask
you
that.
can pay amount to your mortgage company to have a lower rate. So a lot of companies will advertise lower rates, and it's with a certain number of points that you buy towards the mortgage. It's usually a percentage of the mortgage, but you can buy down your interest rate, basically.
Does that go towards your equity?
No, like you pay the bank. Like let's say you have a $500,000 mortgage, you pay the bank $5,000, and they say, okay, well the rate was 5.99, now it's 5.75, and you just give us that money, and we give you a rate reduction for the life of your loan.
That I'm not the kind of person who usually says stuff like that. But that sounds like a scam. Like I get it, right? Like I get it.
It's a real thing. I swear to God.
I feel like I remember you telling me about this. The only way I would do that is if it's like a decent number, and I get they need to make money, but like it's a huge interest rate change. Like I ain't giving no one $5,000 for 0.25 points, you know?
I think I have to look it up. It's something like 1% of the cost of the loan for every quarter point you go down. Right? It's something like that. And it usually maths out that after like 10 years, if you stay in the house, then you start making your money back. But it's like a ridiculous amount of time before you actually like recoup it. So it really just depends on how long you plan on staying in the house. But
is that a good wow or a bad wow?
No, that's not a good wow. That's a scam wow. No.
Scam wow.
Scam wow. That is definitely. Have you guys seen the movie The Big Short?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. I think you and I talked about it, Nick. But there's like the scene where Steve Carell is talking with like Ryan Gosling and all these other people, and they're talking about all these terrible moves that they have done, that the consumers have done. And Steve Carell goes to a strip club, and he's just like he's getting a lap dance, but the lady's just telling him about his mortgage, and she mentions multiple mortgages, and he's like, "How many mortgages do you have?" And she's like, "I have 5 houses," something like that. And I'm like, that's the kind of crap that gets us in trouble. And we've talked about this before. It's like that 3-way thing where it's like the government's in on it, the businesses are in on it, and we're complicit because we buy it. You know, it's like one of those things where we're all to blame. I don't know. That sounds. To answer your question, no, I would not buy points, Nick.
Okay, good to know.
Have you? Would you?
I've done the math on it for sure.
And
I don't know where I'm going to be in 10 years, so it's never made sense to, if I was going to go and live in my forever house that I knew for sure I'm going to go and die here, and it's going to be more than 10 years, then maybe, yeah, I guess.
What does it really? What about if you paid extra, like you're making extra payments? That would have to change the math, right?
Well, yeah, if you're buying down your interest rate, you don't want to make extra payments.
That's what I was going to say. Like the math doesn't. You know what it's like? It's like solar panels. Do you guys ever watch those solar panel videos?
Oh man,
I love solar panel videos because in my mind, one day I'm like gonna live off the grid or whatever, and I'm like I'm gonna have solar panels. I'm not gonna buy electricity. I'm not gonna be scammed. All this nonsense, right? But it's like it takes between 6 and 10 years for the cost of the solar panels and the monthly savings that you get from your electric bill to actually like make sense. And then it's like, well, I also have to make sure I'm going to live in this house for that long. And, like what is it going to change the equity of my house? Plus I'm putting points on the bank to get my interest rates lower. It's all a scam. It's all a scam, Nick. That's my thoughts.
See, what you got to do is you got to buy somebody's house that was like you and did the scam, but then moved, and then you can just take it over and get all the free electricity,
it's funny that
right?
you say that because when we were in Colorado Springs looking for a house, that happened. However, we had to pick up the mortgage or the lease payments if we were going to buy that house on the solar panels. And I was like, no way am I going to pay their lease for their solar panels. Like, that's absolutely ridiculous. I'm sorry that they made that decision. I'm not picking it up. Like, no.
When you told me that, I was baffled that that's like in the clause or whatever. Like, you got to do that.
It's a real thing, though, right? Like, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they don't own it, right? They're just like renting it from the solar company.
Right. I mean, most people like they take out like a $30, $40 loan. If you're leasing your solar panels, just pay your electric bill at this point, you know? Like no need to I don't know. We're getting off topic and it's driving me crazy.
Let's talk about how you feel about the credit scores in general, Bradley. Do you find they're valuable?
You got me started with this, Dylan. So here's one thing, Nick. So if you look at the 5-year median price for U.S. homes in the U.S. housing market, according to Redfin, it's a 1.2% year-over-year increase since 2020. So last 5 years, October 2020 or 2021 or whatever, to now, 1.2% increase. Does that change anything?
I mean, yeah. Maybe it changed where I would want to be. I feel like there's a lot of locations that have much higher increase than that. It just kind of depends on
True.
the area you're looking at. And so I'm sure there's a lot of undesirable air. Like, isn't everybody leaving New York and California because their stuff's way too high? So I bet you they're bringing down the average quite a bit. But yeah, I'd say maybe if you're in those states, it wouldn't make any sense. Especially, yeah, because if your home value goes down, I think you're in a lot of trouble. So
Right.
you really have to do it in an area that's maybe a little bit more guaranteed to go up, which obviously there's no guarantee of that. But yeah, I'd say if I'm in those states, maybe I'm not. Maybe renting does make more sense in those situations.
Yeah.
You know,
I guess like you said that, like if your home value goes down, it's like such a high risk, you know? Like there's also a risk, let's say your home value doesn't necessarily go down, but you lose your job, you know? And let's say home values are flat. And you lose your job and you have to get out of that house for whatever reason. Then you're kind of stuck in filing for bankruptcy, you know, or moving it
like foreclosure.
Yeah. It just seems like
I mean there is that risk. I think like you're always gonna have to live somewhere, but if you had to downsize and you were in a bad market, or it was a buyer's market or something like that, you could potentially put yourself at risk. So there's not only upside potential. I guess there are some things that could be detrimental, but
yeah,
I think you run the risk of those things with any 30 or 15 year. I guess it's just the risks are a little bit higher with the 50-year because you're not building the equity with your payments.
Right.
So yeah, there is a little bit more risk with that.
So,
I still think it's probably worth it more often than not, but it's a good consideration.
So I'm glad you brought it back, because let's circle back to the 50-year specifically. All of these thoughts, how does that play into the 50-year? Let's say you started it later. Like, I feel like any scenario we've talked about is worse the longer we're in a mortgage, right? So doesn't the 50-year just make all of these scenarios worse?
I mean, yes and no, because I think if let's say if I'm somebody who would be able to afford a 30-year mortgage by the time I'm 30, right? And I would rent until I'm 30 and I buy my first house and it's a 30-year or 15, whatever. But doing a 50-year mortgage allows me to make that purchase at 25 or even 20. I think I'm going to get more value in those 5 to 10 years renting, not renting and doing a 50-year and then transitioning to a 30-year when I can afford to, or refinancing or buying another. Like, I think the goal is not to stay on a 50-year. The goal is to do that until you can bridge it into a 30-year mortgage or do a more traditional and refinance.
Okay, Nick, let me have this scenario. So I'm moving to a cheaper place. This obviously in real life, probably increasing the size of my home for, family stuff, my parents. But I don't know, like, it's not our long-term home, right? But maybe it could be like a long-term asset. Okay? What I mean is, like, I'm probably going to move again at one point in time, but I, in theory, would like to keep that house for whatever reasons. Whether it's to keep it with the family or to have other people, like, let's say my parents stay there or whomever, or I rent it. Like, let's say this happens February, there's a 50-year mortgage all baked out. would you recommend that I get that in this scenario?
I think it depends on what your goals are. If your overall goal is just to have the lowest monthly payment that you can to be able to just, whatever, then I would say, yeah, a 50-year might make sense. Now, if your goal is like, hey, I want to pay off the principal as quickly as I can, then obviously not. And you can afford to do that. But I think most people start with just like, what's my monthly going to be?
Right.
And then they get to a place of like, okay, how can I pay this off quicker? So I think even if you started at a 50 and then transitioned into a 30, I think it also depends on what the rates are, right? If it's a half a percentage point, there's maybe some math where it makes sense. Anything more than that, I think it might be kind of tough. But
Right.
I would say if you're like, hey, I'm just that extra $200 a month or whatever is going to be a make or break, then yeah, it might not, because people are, with car payments, right? Like, you might think, hey, I'm going to make a car payment and it's going to be I'm always going to have a car payment. Well, if you're just like, I'm always going to have a mortgage payment, well, then have the lower one might make sense.
Well,
So
sorry, go ahead, Dylan.
I guess it kind of, my question becomes, does ownership of your home at the end of the day, it feels, at least, headline reader people vibes over here, people don't like the idea of a 50-year mortgage. That's kind of the vibe right now.
Sure.
It's like, I'm never going to be able to own a home. Okay. So at that point in time, does ownership of your home necessarily matter? Is it important to own a home still, with it being so far out of reach?
Well, okay, here's what I think. Let's say I'm looking at my current mortgage. I'm 35 years old. I've had this mortgage for 4 years on a 30-year mortgage. I'm going to be 60 something, 61 when I own the home if I don't make any additional payments. What's the difference, right? Like, do I own my home now? Yes, no. Like, is an extra 20 years, does that matter, Like, is my goal just to have no payments? So, like, to answer your question, Dylan, from my perspective is like, do we consider Nick and I homeowners, or are we just renting from the bank? And in 30 years, they're going to hand the keys over. So I guess that's the point, is like, with the 50 years, is like, it's a 20 extra years. And like, you can even look at it. People in their 60s and 70s still get 30-year mortgages, right? And I don't know if the risk is just like so minimal because the average lifespan is 75-ish. So if you're 70 and you get a 30-year mortgage, you're like, haha, like, I got it. I got one on you.
And the other thing to think about too, because I've maybe shared this, but my goal is to have my house paid off within the next 5 years. And I'm on track. Like, I'm putting every extra bit I can towards it. My minimum house payment's around $1,500. When I pay my house off, I still have to pay around $700 to $800 a month, even once it's paid off, because of escrow, or not escrow, but like the insurance and property taxes and all those things. It's about $700 a month. So like, my monthly payment doesn't go away; it just goes down a little bit. So I get the question of like, does it even matter if you own it? But I don't know that everybody's goal needs to be like, I got to pay it off and not have a payment, because I think you're always going to have that. But I do think owning versus renting, there's way more upside in owning than renting, because you do have that principal balance that you can, cash out, or, things like that. So I think that's where it's valuable, not necessarily to pay it off.
That makes me think of one thing, Nick. And I don't know if you because I know you have your MBA, but like, when I took a lot of financing class, this always came up, like the time value of money. And that was just like always a focus. So, okay, money now is always worth more than money tomorrow, right? Whether it's for inflation, but for purchasing power. So, am I getting one over on the bank by making them hold it for 50 years? Because let's say I buy a house and my mortgage is $3,000. Well, $3,000 today is a lot, but $3,000 in 30 years from now, that's not that bad, right? Like, that's probably the equivalent of 15 or 10 grand, or 15 or 10 $1,000 today. So maybe like, you actually, like, yes, you increase your interest payments, your total interest, but the value of that money is actually lowered because of time. I don't know. I don't know if I'm trying to buy my way into this idea.
But you're like, I need a 50-year loan now. No, I think it makes sense. And we talked about like the interest versus inflation, and like, is home ownership actually like in the long term? And I think it does turn out that it's better. But yeah, to your point, maybe that is, it's a higher payment today, but 20 years from now, it's going to be like, oh, you got grandfathered into that cheap mortgage payment back when houses were only $1 million and now they're 10.
What about this? Do you think we could figure out the math if we took the average inflation rate, let's say for the last 50 years? That makes sense because it's 50. And then we added it in for the next 50 years. We took what the cost would be. Let's assume a 30-year interest rate is 6.26. Let's say it goes up 0.5. So 6.75 for a 50-year. You calculate what interest rate payments you're paying over 50 years, your total interest, and that's pretty easy to do. And then you also calculate that interest based on inflation and see which one's cheaper. Do you do you know what I'm saying, Nick?
Someone's like, wait, what? How does that math work? Yeah, I still think 30 years probably going to be more advantageous, but I think it might not be as bad as you're thinking with the 50-year.
So to kind of cap off the whole thing, as of right now, as it stands, the information, where it's at. Do either of you, having the opportunity to get a 30 realistically, or a 50-year mortgage, which one are you going for today?
30. Also, we don't know where it's at, though. Like, it was just like some idea Trump put on like social media, like it's not actually a thing. And I have a feeling it probably won't be. But it's not like we know nothing, like everything we're kind of assuming, comparing a 15-year to a 30-year. So we have literally zero details because it's not a real thing. It's just like a made up thing a guy made up. That guy happens to be our president. He doesn't actually make loans, like it's not how it works.
Maybe he'll start. You never know.
Yeah, quit downing him.
Yeah, like he can't do it. So like it would have to somehow. I mean, the government taking control of Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac could potentially change that. And I guess that's where you get into the whole thing of like, what should the government have control of? Some people think the government should have more control. Some think less. And I think that's where it comes in. But if it was today, in a perfect world, I'm going 15-year, right? Like you're saving more money. Yeah, of course.
But we're talking realistic right now, right?
Realistically, 30-year.
Here's what I'll say is I had the choice between the two, and I went 30-year over 15. Just because I think the extra 10 months paying off early was worth the flexibility of a lower monthly payment.
Yeah.
But my kiddo, she's 18, going to be 19 soon. If she came to me and said, hey, I can't get finance for a 30-year loan on this house. They did offer me a 50-year, or I can rent this apartment. Which one should I do? Of those two options, I'm probably saying go 50-year and get yourself into a house.
Okay. I like it.
Because I don't think the question is it 30-year or 50? I think, is it renting or 50-year? I think that's what you're really deciding against. And I think in between those two, I'm going to go 50-year.
Interesting. What if it's not like Dylan, he rents, right? What if it's like Dylan asks you, should I just upgrade to a house or keep renting?
Yeah, I would say if you're asking me, should I continue renting or get a 50-year because I can't get a 30, then yeah, I would tell you get a 50. And I would say obviously if you financially can get a 30, go for that.
Okay.
But if
so
those
in
are your
this
two
case,
options,
still get a 30 if he can get a 30.
If he can get it and he can afford it, it makes sense. But if you're like, hey, I can only do a 50 or renting, yeah, dude, get the 50.
All right, you've heard it here. We always say get a 50-year mortgage in every scenario. Boom.
Never not 50.
Jeez.
All right, gentlemen. Well, I appreciate your time, patience, and energy with today. Any final thoughts? Housing, Bradley. You said you're moving, so what's your plan for getting a house? Tell us how you're going to do that.
So we talked to our realtor, and she said that like right now the housing market's a little slow, and it even slows down more during Christmas time, holidays and
Sure.
such. So she said put your house on sale for sale in early next year. So that way people will start looking for a house again because most people don't buy a house over Christmas. And the thing with that is like uh, if we don't have our house on the market and it's someone's like, oh, this house has been on the market for 3 months, we'll get a, we'll be able to negotiate. That's the idea, is like eliminate that negotiation tactic of having the house on the market for longer. And we have this fresh new house. Hopefully people are buying houses. So that's my plan, is wait till January, probably first or second week of January, and put our house up for sale. We need the equity. I'll just be honest. We need the equity to buy our new house. Uh, Fortunately, however, that equity, because of the place we're moving, Missouri, is quite valuable in Missouri, So, like, I'm going to a cheaper home, even through upgrading, the house is going to be significantly cheaper. So that equity is worth a lot. That's my plan.
Okay. And Nick, how would you buy a house these days?
I don't know if I would. I feel like I'd want to pay cash for a house right now. So, uh, look, I'm very fortunate and blessed to have a low mortgage amount left on my house, and so I've got quite a bit of capital. So I feel like what I would want to do is sell this house and maybe downsize, because I mean, it's almost 3,000 square foot, and it's me and my wife and my kiddo who's probably going to move out. So we probably have way too much house. And so get something a little bit smaller that maybe I can just pay cash with the equity that I have in this
Yeah.
house. Maybe get a little bit of land, nothing crazy, maybe like 5 acres, something like that. But I would try to just do it either no loan at all, or a loan for a very small amount, just because I know the interest rates aren't great right now.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'd probably downsize a little bit of a land and just have no mortgage.
Dylan, what about you? What scenario would you go from renting to buying?
Well, personally, right now, the first thing I would check would be, is my credit in a place that I could realistically get a good interest rate. Um, I don't think so, based on your story. It doesn't matter what I'm at,
Huh.
I'm screwed. But I'm actually generally where you're at, Bradley. I think I'm just a smidge lower, but that
Yeah.
just fluctuates based on, like, I have some used up on my credit
Right.
card, and
Right.
then it goes down 10 points randomly.
Yeah.
Um, so it's generally well, and I'm assuming they check that, right? I would hope. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Oh.
Surprisingly enough, your credit score doesn't impact your overall interest rate as much as people think. It's more of a, like, you either qualify or you don't. But usually the rates that you get are more just set by what the interest rates are. And you have like your prime and subprime. So there's a little bit of difference, but
Yeah.
typically it's not like, if I can go from a 750 to an 820, do I get a better interest rate? Typically not. Usually if you're like 740 and above, you get the best interest rate. And even I think my first house I qualified at like a 640 or something like that. And it was not that big of a difference at the time. The rates are more set based off of what rates are versus what your credit score is. And I don't know if a lot of people realize that, but
Yeah, I think you're
Well, I
right.
don't.
It's really about, it's like big sections. It's not like, okay, I'm 810, you're 812, so I get 0.2% off my interest rates. It's like if you're up, like you said, I think like 740 to 780, and anything better than that is just, it's all the same thing. So it really just like, and those can change quickly depending on what's on your credit card. So it can jump it up. But you have to hit like that threshold where you're at the same. My point though is I am at prime, and they gave me higher than average. So like I don't care if it doesn't matter that much. I should be at least get me 3 points under average. Anyways, sorry.
You're good. So, yeah, I mean, so I would check my credit first, which apparently doesn't matter. I would generally just figure out if I using a 30, what the interest rate would be at that time, which generally like six and change. So depending on that, I'd have to check and see what the average household I could afford with that interest rate. On top of that, adding insurance, adding any extra like costs and fees if I could financially afford that. Powering all that, realistically, at any time, if I'm not lazy and want to move my king size bed around the town, that'd be great. I was thinking about it anyway because you know I've been honestly thinking about what does the house look like for me because at some point in time when your house payment is around the same cost as like what rent is these days, it's like
Yeah.
why not? What is it?
Yeah. I
What's the
mean, really,
difference?
the only thing you have to worry about is a down payment, and then, making sure you can afford your payments. But yeah, I mean, at
Yeah.
some point, it's especially like us in our 30s, like we should, there's really no reason. Like more rent goes up probably. I'm just making this up. I feel like rent goes up, just can go up a lot and very quickly, and mortgages just kind of have a steady pace. And I don't know if that's right or not, but I don't know. I feel like Dylan, you can tell us like how much has your rent gone up, and how can we compare that to like housing prices? Like when you started, where were you at? Do you know?
So I've been here 8 years
Okay.
in my apartment. Almost no, 10,
Okay.
sorry. And it's gone up from my two bedroom from like 800 to I'm almost at like with utilities, like the things included with it, 11 almost.
Okay. So that's what, like a 40% increase?
Is
So,
it?
right?
What, 300? Yeah,
It's a
it's
20.
close.
It's a 20. Because 20, 40, 60, 80, you add 200 to it.
No, that's not how it works.
Okay.
Well, a 50% increase would be 1,200.
Yeah. So it's right around a
Um,
40% increase. So I mean, how much has divided by 800? It's a 37.5%. Sorry, I did the official math. 37.5% increase. 1200 or 1100 minus 800 divided by 800. Okay, so it's gone up 37.5%. In 8 years. Have houses gone up 37.5%? I don't know.
and I mean, in that time frame, what did you say? 10 years? I think
8 years.
probably
I don't
was
think
eight.
No,
so.
it's
Well,
about
eight or
10. It's about 10.
I'd say housing prices have probably gone up around that. That wouldn't be unheard of.
Okay. Hmm.
If you look at like Missouri specifically, I bet you they've gone up that much.
I, I
Well,
don't, yeah.
I don't know. To
I
me, I think the difference would just be locking in the better interest rate.
right. Yeah.
At that point, I think that's the main thing. I mean, bottom line, housing and the affordability of it is lacking for people. It's that just is what it is. I don't know how you solve it. And the only thing just off the top of my dome is we talked about the Franny Mae. Who's that?
Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. Those are like mortgage. They basically deal with like our mortgage system and our loans and stuff like that.
I think personally there could be an option for the government to step in to put boundaries on how much houses could go up by. I know that's a chain of events that could just
That's such
catastrophically
a bad
ruin the.
idea. Don't listen to that.
See
That
what
would
I mean? Yeah,
that
see, that's just unfathomable that you couldn't just like maybe
right.
things that are necessary to live, you make sure people can
Yeah.
afford. I know that's
That
crazy.
no.
No,
Yeah.
can't do it. I say you come out with a 200-year mortgage and just let
Yeah.
people create generational wealth.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense, but you're not because you'll sell it. So it's
Yeah.
not. So anyway, yeah, so you just make houses unaffordable forever and we don't have to have this
Yeah,
conversation.
houses are very affordable in the United States, especially like for our standard of living. It feels bad because like inflation has kind of sucked here and there, but like in like the reality of affordability, like we have amazing affordability, especially compared to our wages. We're just like, as Americans, like the last 50, 70 years, we've had such great generational wealth. When we don't keep up with it, it feels like we're broke and we're poor. But compared to the whole world, we're the best, you know, like we have amazing affordability. It's just like there is this bubble that's happening, not a house bubble, but like of like affordability, interest rates, inflation, where it's like kind of they're all overlapping and colliding. And so like little problems here and there are starting to stack on top of each other. And I think that's where the idea of like a 50-year mortgage comes in, you know, like let's have the government step in and come up with new ideas. So we'll see.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the answer to like what do you get to the houses, because while it may be that way, I people don't feel that way. And I think you're right, though. I think there's definitely a because you always want to like avoid the anecdotal feelings when it comes through this, because that could. I bet I would say there are definitely a good chunk of people, if they were to go for a house, it'd be more affordable than what they thought.
Oh yeah, and social media makes it feel like everything's worse. Like imagine if we had TikTok and Twitter in 1975. When gas prices were crazy, like we would be like our country is over with, you know? Like interest rates are 17%, gas prices are crazy high. There's people lining up for gas. No one has any gas. We're in Iran. Like trust me, like if people had TikTok 50 years ago, things would seem very bad then. It's just we have access to shout at the top of our lungs.
All right. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate your time today. It was good to talk and tackle the housing crisis that we're definitely in.
Yeah, it's fixed.
200-year mortgage for everybody. Yeah, the American dream. All right. Well, as always, FF family, thank you so much for being here. As always, my name is Dylan. I'm here with Bradley and Nick. So I hope you have a good morning, afternoon, and evening, and we'll see you for the next one.
Adios.
Peace.